What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Blue. I'm here with none other than Robert Garcia. What's going on, Robert?
How's it going, man? Thanks for having me.
First things first, I want to start this off by saying, what's the secret? Because it seems like, you could always resurrect boxers' careers. We already know, obviously, Mikey Garcia. We already know yourself was the champion. We know how great of a trainer your dad was. But what's the secret? You got Josito Lopez looks like a whole different fighter. When you got Marcos Maidana, he looked like a whole different fighter, obviously. We saw him upset Adrian Broner in the 2 fights with Floyd Mayweather. What's the secret over at the Robert Garcia gym?
No, you just have to love what you do, have a great team. Obviously, I can't do it by myself. My father's still involved, my son, Pita, my assistant, Chepe, and all the parents that are, part of it, and most important, all the fighters supporting each other, working with each other. I have, even if they're top rank, Golden Boy, PBC, DAZN, you name it, whatever, they still support each other. They still help each other out. I think just the team that I created is, that's what gives me the results that I've been getting. Everybody's happy, everybody's motivated, everybody wants to be better than the other, and there's so much competition that it's just never going to end. So everybody wanting to be better than the other makes a big difference.
And does having Mikey such a great champion and yourself being a champion, does that motivate the other guys that's coming up or rejuvenating their career?
Look, with Mikey in the gym and being there, even though he doesn't have a date, even though he had a 2.5-year layoff a couple years back, he was still in the gym helping Maidana prepare for Mayweather. Most recently, he's in the gym. He goes in the gym sparring days to help if it's Misael or Lindolfo or Hector Tanajara from 130 to 160. He'll help everybody out, so the fighters get that motivation. A 4th division champion, pound for pound, one of the best fighters in the world, coming in there just to help out. There's no other fighters that would do stuff like that. Mikey goes just to help them prepare for their fights, and that motivates the fighters to say, look, Mikey, a 4th division champion, one of the best fighters in the world, is here. Doesn't have to be here, but he comes in to help us. That says a lot and helps a lot too.
Now you have Josito Lopez fighting John Molina, which a lot of people feel like this could steal the show the whole night. But how do you keep? We know John Molina loves to be in barn burners. How do you keep Josito Lopez to mix it up?
Look, it's gonna be probably, like you said, maybe steal the show that night. It's gonna be one of the best fights, I believe so. They both love to fight. Once the bell rings, we could have all the instructions in the world for Josito. Maybe box, maybe whatever we tell him. But once the bell rings and Molina comes in front of him, I think it's going to be one of those fights where it's whoever is in better shape, whoever takes the better punch, or whoever lands the first shot.
Right.
I just don't know. It's going to be one of those fights where it's going to be full of action. It could go all 10. It could end in 2 or 3.
Right.
Those fights that you never know. I'm excited about this fight as a fan. I know the type of fighter Molina is, and can't wait for this fight.
Now we saw Josito nearly upset Keith Thurman, and that got a lot of buzz. His name a lot of buzz. Right. He wins this fight in a fight that could be fight of the year type of fight. Where do you see him going next, and could he get an opportunity at one of the titles?
Well, look, what he did with Thurman and one punch from winning the fight, it was big for him, for the team. Even though we didn't take the win, it was like a win for us. Mm-hmm. And now coming back against Molina and giving the fans fight of the year type of fight, I'm sure he earned another shot. And I'm not saying we're calling out any champions because they are all very, very tough. The winner of the main event is going to be one of the best welters out there. Then you still have Pacquiao as a champion and Terence Crawford. So either champ is going to be very difficult to beat because they are very talented. Right. So we're not looking past Molina. If we do win, then obviously we know if it's not a title fight, it's still going to be a big fight. There's so many big names out there that PBC works with, and we would love to get a shot at a big fight, a big name.
Now, speaking of big names, Mikey Garcia, obviously your brother, one of your fighters. His name's been circulating a lot with Manny Pacquiao. You know, it's a possibility. I heard you once say that it's a strong possibility that he could sign with Eddie Hearn in the zone. You know, they offer him a big contract. What's next for Mikey Garcia?
Well, look, right now I think if it would be a Manny Pacquiao, we have to wait till Saturday. I think Manny's also waiting to see who wins between Spence and Porter. There's also, I'm sure he also has other options. They mentioned Danny Garcia, so we can't really say that it's going to be Mikey. I think it's going to be all up to Pacquiao, but we would love that shot. We would love to, and that's probably one thing that's holding Mikey from taking any other fights. You know, we want him to fight before the end of the year. It definitely won't be against Pacquiao. Pacquiao's going to fight till next year. So if we do take a fight before the end of the year, that's probably because he knows he's not going to fight Pacquiao, or maybe the Pacquiao fight's not going to be till April or May. Then he could do a fight before that. It all depends after this Saturday. Hopefully we know something soon, because we definitely would want Mikey to fight before the end of the year.
And how do you see that fight playing out stylistically wise? Because I always say that Mikey puts me in the mindset of Juan Manuel Marquez, and I think that, you know, for Manny Pacquiao, that's a bad style.
Right.
You know,
that's the style that's always the 4 fights that they had. Always gave Pacquiao trouble. They were all very close fights. Could have gone either way. I think Mikey has the style to beat Pacquiao. Won't be easy. You know, Pacquiao's still very strong at 41. I believe he'll be 41. He's still very fast, very strong. So definitely won't be easy. But I think Mikey's style is a style that could beat Pacquiao.
now if Mikey doesn't land the Pacquiao fight, he was already in a huge fight with ERROL Spence. Could we see him in another huge fight with a guy like Terence Crawford?
Well, look, the good thing about Mike is he's got a lot of options. You know, he could. You mentioned the zone. He could work out a deal with the zone. He could even work out a deal with Top Rank on ESPN and there. You know, I would love Mikey to fight Lomachenko later on against Crawford. You know, there's big fights, and Mikey has a lot of options. So let's wait and see what happens after Saturday, and hopefully Pacquiao makes a decision soon. That we will know what's next.
Now I saw Bob Arum. He said that Mikey has to come down to at least the catchweight to fight Vasyl Lomachenko. But then he mentioned some other names, and it seems like he may be able to do 140 for the right opponent. You know, that says a lot about Mikey.
I think Lomachenko is pound for pound. Personally, I love his style, and I like the way he fights. So pound for pound, he's the best fighter in the world. But I also know him personally, just like I know his manager and his team, and they want those big fights. I'm sure he would love the fight against Mikey, and yeah, we would have to work something out when it comes to the weight. But the fight itself would be probably one of the biggest fights in boxing. The fight that people would love to see. So Lomachenko would maybe even fight at 140 against Mikey, just because he wants that fight so bad, and he wants to prove himself to the world that he is what he, you know, the fighter that he is. He's got the skills that he's got, and that he's willing to fight anybody. Because I know them. They love to fight. They'll fight anybody.
Now, I personally believe that Mikey is a bad style matchup for Vasyl Lomachenko because of his patience and his ring IQ and his experience. You know, he's not going to get overwhelmed by, you know, all the angles and all the movement.
I agree with you too, you know, but it's something you shouldn't have said.
I gave it away.
No, you gave it away. Nah, look, Lomachenko, he'll fight. He loves to fight, and he wants to prove that he's the best in the world. So I know he'd have no problem taking the fight. But once, you know, I go back to, let's see what's next for Mikey. See if the Pacquiao fight's out there, or a deal with the zone. I don't know. You know, he makes the decisions. I know he's very happy working with PBC, because he's had great fights, great big names that he's been against, and he enjoys his career right now, doing great. So I'm sure, you know, that this would be his first choice, but we got to see if the right fight's out there for him.
And now a couple of more questions. I just want to ask you, Saul Canelo Alvarez going up 175, face Sergey Kovalev. How do you see that fight playing
I
out?
think Canelo moving up is he wants to prove to the boxing world, especially to the Mexican fans, that he's the real deal, that he's willing to take those chances. It is a big chance, a big risk that he's taking, but I think it's a perfect match for him. Even though Kovalev is much taller than him, I think Canelo's speed and power is enough to dominate. I think he stops Kovalev in the 8 rounds.
Now, obviously, the big fight in 48 hours. Shawn Porter, ERROL Spence. Your last fight with Mikey, you faced ERROL Spence. How do you see this fight playing out?
ERROL Spence is one of those very talented fighters. He had an answer to everything Mikey did. If Mikey started pressure, he could box. If he could go forward, he did everything perfectly. I think he fights very well, and I pick him to win this Saturday. But if Shawn Porter style, like we've normally seen in pressure and make it an ugly fight, could say ugly, dirty, whatever you want to say, I think he could give Spence trouble. I still think Spence wins by decision, but it's gonna be interesting to see what Porter does in the ring. I think if he tries to box like he's tried in a couple of fights, I think it's gonna be all Spence.
Right.
But if Porter pressures and finds some way inside and fights like that the whole fight, it's going to be interesting to see how Spence reacts.
Now, I heard ERROL say that he didn't want to stop Mikey. He was actually did a special on Fox, and the lady asked him. She said, "If you couldn't stop Mikey, how you going to stop Shawn?" He said he didn't want to stop Mikey. What's your thoughts of that?
Well, I don't think he should even say that, because any fighter, if you get a chance to knock your opponent out, you're gonna knock him out. I could easily prove him wrong, because I don't remember which round it was. He landed a lot of punches on Mikey, and his trainer was looking at our corner when the bell rang and was actually screaming to us, what the fuck are you guys waiting for? Stop the fight, So
right.
Unless both his trainer and Spence, they were both on a different page and are not following each other's instructions or directions. But I know for a fact, because even my son was the one looking at him, and my son kind of got mad because he didn't know what he was saying. But then he publicly said that he was actually telling us, what are you guys waiting for? Stop the fight. So
right.
They wanted to win by knockout.
Right.
I just think he couldn't knock Mikey out.
Now, another big fight, and it's the last question. Everybody talks about is Terence Crawford versus ERROL Spence. How do from a trainer's point of view, you see that fight playing out?
That'd be the fight everybody would love to. I would love to see it. I really can't pick a winner. I would probably lean towards Terence Crawford, because Terence Crawford switches. He's already been a champion longer, and has he's a 3-division champion. Has already lived a lot of experiences. So I would probably lean towards Terence Crawford, but I would say a 50-50 fight. Both are very, very smart fighters, very technical. It would be a fight that I would love to see. Will it ever happen? I don't know. At least not anytime soon, but I would definitely want to see the fight.
What's your thoughts on Leo Santa Cruz, Gary Russell situation? Did you see
Look,
that?
I think Leo is a very calm fighter, very respectful. Has nothing bad to say about nobody. Never said anything bad about anybody. I gotta respect his patience, because anybody else would want to get even at Gary Russell. I think Gary Russell, what Gary Russell did was very disrespectful to Leo's father, especially knowing that Leo's father don't even speak the language, so he's saying words that the dad's not understanding, playing with his chains and stuff like that. I think that was very disrespectful. But at the end of the day, Gary Russell wants that fight too, and he wants an answer. He wants to fight him. Sometimes you got to do stuff like that to be able to get those fights. Sometimes fighters punch their opponent just to get a fight, or say something bad about the wives or stuff just to make the fight.
Right.
Gary Russell did his job to try to promote the fight and try to make it happen. I think he went a little bit overboard, but in this business, you got to do stuff like that to get fights. I know Gary Russell and his family. They're not those type of family that that are disrespectful. They're actually a team that people love. They love their fans, and fans love them too. In the boxing world, nobody's ever said anything bad about them. So I think it was more about just trying to get that fight. I don't think he really meant it, or he really did it because he's a bad person. Right. I know they're not.
Thank you, Robert.
Right,
I appreciate you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.